Hello everyone, welcome back to the Strike Sphere channel. Please make sure to subscribe and like this video because today we are diving into one of the most dramatic and impactful events in the Russia-Ukraine war, Ukraine's bold move to strike the Crimean Bridge. This is not just another battle update, this is a strategic earthquake that reshapes the entire war front, Russia's logistics, and the psychological balance of power. So let's carefully break this down in the way we usually do, by looking at the exterior, the interior, performance, safety features, unique selling points, cost, and conclusion. But remember, this isn't a car or a gadget review, it's a geopolitical analysis wrapped in a way that's simple for everyone to understand. The exterior of the Crimean Bridge has always been its defining feature. Stretching across the Kerch Strait, this bridge was not just a physical connection between Russia and the Crimean Peninsula, it was a symbol. From the outside, its grand structure told the story of Moscow's grip on Crimea. Built at a cost of billions, heavily guarded and constantly patrolled, the bridge stood like a monumental declaration. Crimea belongs to Russia. That's why the exterior mattered. For Ukraine and much of the international community, this wasn't simply a bridge. It was a wound, a reminder of 2014 when Russia seized Crimea. And when Ukraine targeted it, they weren't just hitting infrastructure. They were striking Russia's pride, its prestige, its supposed permanence in Crimea. From the outside, this was the most visible symbol Russia had built to prove its control, and that's exactly why Ukraine wanted to damage it. When we step inside, to the interior meaning and importance of this bridge, we see how deeply tied it is to Russian logistics. Inside its true role, it is not about beauty or architecture, but about moving tanks, fuel, ammunition, and soldiers. The interior purpose of the Crimean Bridge was to keep the Russian war machine fed. It linked mainland Russia directly to Crimea and then onward to southern Ukraine, where battles were raging in Kherson, Zaporizhia, and Donetsk. Cutting this line even temporarily meant choking the Russian front lines of supplies. That is why Ukraine's attack resonated so strongly, not because of the concrete that cracked, but because of the arteries of war that were suddenly severed. In short, the interior role of the bridge was the bloodstream of Russia's southern campaign, and Ukraine just injected a shock right into it. Now, when we evaluate performance, we have to think about how the bridge served Russia's war effort and how Ukraine's attack performed as a tactical move. For years, Russia relied on the bridge to sustain its troops. Convoys of trucks, fuel tankers, and military vehicles rolled across it daily. In performance terms, it worked exactly as Russia intended, but the attack changed that. Ukraine demonstrated an ability to reach far, to coordinate, and to innovate. Whether by sea drones, aerial strikes, or sabotage, Ukraine proved that even Russia's most fortified and cherished structure was vulnerable. Performance-wise, this attack scored highly for Ukraine. It damaged Russian confidence, forced them to reroute supplies by ferry and long overland routes, and it showed NATO allies that Ukraine could deliver powerful, precise strikes. For Russia, however, the performance of their defensive systems around the bridge was embarrassingly poor. Billions spent on defense, radars, and patrols, yet the bridge still suffered serious blows. The performance review here is clear. Ukraine adapted faster, Russia faltered. Safety features are an interesting way to look at this because in theory, the Crimean Bridge had multiple defenses. Anti-air systems were deployed nearby, naval patrols guarded the surrounding waters, and Russia had surveillance around the clock. These were the so-called safety features of the bridge. Yet, like a car that promises airbags and brakes but fails during a crash test, these defenses didn't function properly when the strike came. For civilians, Russia claimed the bridge was safe, a secure passage for normal traffic. But the reality revealed by the attack was very different. Its safety systems were penetrable. For Ukraine, safety features meant minimizing collateral damage and targeting infrastructure in a way that maximized strategic impact. And in this sense, Ukraine succeeded. The bridge was hit, military logistics were disrupted, and the symbolic target was achieved without mass civilian deaths. The safety element showed the contrast. Russia's safety failed, Ukraine's calculated safety succeeded. Unique selling points are perhaps the most fascinating in this analysis. Why did the Crimean Bridge matter more than any other bridge in this war? Why not strike some random supply road or railway? The answer is that the Crimean Bridge was not just functional but symbolic. Its unique selling point to Russia was prestige. It was personally opened by Vladimir Putin in 2018, presented as one of the great achievements of his era. To Russians, it was a trophy. To Ukrainians, it was a target that symbolized occupation. The attack, therefore, carried a double blow. Militarily, it disrupted logistics. Psychologically, it sent shockwaves through the Russian population who had been told Crimea was untouchable. For Ukraine, the unique selling point of this strike was simple. It proved that no place in occupied territories, not even Russia's prized bridge, was beyond their reach. That psychological impact, both on Russia and on Ukraine's allies, was priceless. When we look at the price, it's not just financial. Russia spent billions of dollars building the Crimean Bridge, investing political capital and military resources to guard it. The cost was astronomical, not only in rubles, but in symbolism. For Ukraine, the price of the attack was much smaller in comparison. Reports suggest they used innovative sea drones or precision weapons, costing a fraction of what Russia poured into the bridge's construction and defense. The price-to-impact ratio was dramatically in Ukraine's favor. A relatively cheap strike caused damage worth billions, forced Russia into expensive rerouting operations, and delivered a psychological blow that money cannot repair. For the global audience, the price is also measured in escalation. Each strike on the bridge raises the stakes of the war, risks Russian retaliation, and pushes the conflict into more dangerous waters. The price was therefore not just financial but strategic, and Ukraine calculated that it was worth paying. As we reach the conclusion, we have to step back and ask what this all means for the future. The Crimean Bridge attack is not just a one-time event, it's a message. Ukraine showed creativity, boldness, and determination. They proved that Russia's strongest symbols could fall. They signaled to allies that continued support would lead to tangible results. And they reminded Russia that the war is far from secure. For Russia, the conclusion is sobering. Their billion-dollar prestige project was not invincible. Their logistics are now more fragile, their public perception weaker, and their enemies more confident. The conclusion is simple. This was not just a strike on a bridge, but a strike on Russia's sense of permanence in Crimea. And for the world watching, the message is clear too. Wars are not won only with guns and tanks. They are won with bold moves, with strategy, and with the courage to strike at symbols that hold an entire enemy's narrative together. Ukraine's bold move against the Crimean Bridge is exactly that, a reminder that even the strongest structures can fall, and even the biggest powers can bleed. So as this war unfolds, this attack will be remembered not just as an explosion on steel and concrete, but as a turning point in the psychological and strategic battle for Ukraine's future.